The ballroom of the Plaza Hotel in Manhattan glittered beneath 3 crystal chandeliers. 300 guests in formal attire circulated between tables decorated with white orchids, glasses of Dom Perignon champagne passing on silver trays. The Ashford Foundation for Underprivileged Children was being launched that evening. Senators, CEOs, and celebrities had paid $10,000 per table to witness the moment, and to see the babies. The Ashford twins had become a legend in Manhattan social circles. After 7 years of childless marriage, after countless failed fertility treatments and 3 miscarriages, the babies had arrived like a miracle. 2 identical boys, born 8 months earlier at a clinic in Switzerland. Jonathan Ashford, 45, founder of Ashford Pharmaceuticals, watched his wife with pride. Victoria was radiant in her navy blue Valentino dress, holding Lucas in her left arm while the nanny kept Noah nearby. The babies, with brown eyes and caramel skin, were absolutely identical. Genetics is fascinating, Victoria would say when people commented on the boys' skin tone, so different from their blonde, light-eyed parents. Jonathan's great-grandmother was Brazilian. No one questioned it. The Ashfords were above suspicion. That's when the ballroom doors burst open. A black woman pushed through the entrance, shoving aside a waiter. Her clothes were torn, a faded green military jacket over what had once been a floral dress. Bare feet, soles blackened by New York asphalt. Natural hair matted and covered in dust. But it was her eyes that made Jonathan stop. Brown eyes burning with a disturbing intensity. These weren't the eyes of madness. These were the eyes of someone who had walked through hell driven by a single obsession. Those babies aren't yours. The scream cut through the music. 300 people froze. Security! Victoria shouted, clutching Lucas to her chest. Get this woman out of here. 4 guards advanced, but the woman planted her feet on the marble. My name is Amara Thompson. Her voice was hoarse but carried force. 8 months ago, I gave birth to twin boys at Memorial Hospital in Newark. They told me my babies died during delivery. A murmur rippled through the ballroom. They sedated me before I could see them. When I woke up, they showed me 2 small bodies and asked me to sign cremation papers. Amara stepped forward. I spent 3 months in a psychiatric hospital. But a mother knows. A mother feels. This woman is insane. Victoria looked around for support. She suffered trauma and is projecting. I was a nurse. Amara interrupted. I worked at Memorial Hospital. I had a life, an apartment, a fiancé. Everything disappeared after that night. Jonathan raised his hand, stopping the guards. Continue. Victoria looked at him as if he'd slapped her. My fiancé left after 2 months. I lost my job. Lost my apartment. In 5 months, I lost everything. Amara briefly closed her eyes. But even while begging on the streets, I never stopped searching. I got access to hospital records. Discovered that on the night I lost my babies, a private ambulance transported 2 infants to a private airport. The murmuring intensified. That proves nothing. Victoria stepped back. I found out where the plane went. A clinic in Switzerland. The same one where you say your sons were born. Victoria's face lost all color. I worked 3 weeks in this hotel's kitchen. Amara looked around. Washing dishes. Sleeping in the subway. All to see my babies. She fixed her eyes on the twins. The one on the left has a scar behind his ear. Small. Comma-shaped. Jonathan felt his blood freeze. Lucas had exactly that mark. I saw them make that scar. A tear rolled down Amara's face. When they took my babies, one of them struggled. The scalpel slipped. The silence was absolute. Jonathan turned to Victoria. He expected to see outrage. The fierce denial of a wrongly accused mother. But he saw terror. Victoria. What is she saying? Nothing. She's a disturbed homeless woman. Then look into my eyes. Amara advanced. Say those babies are yours. Say you carried them for 9 months. Say you felt them kicking. Victoria opened her mouth. No sound came out. Say it in front of all these people. The seconds dragged. And in the silence of that ballroom filled with millionaires, Jonathan began to understand that the happiest 8 months of his life, every bottle feeding, every baby smile, every moment of fatherhood, might have been built on a monstrous lie that his own wife had orchestrated. If stories of hidden truths capture your attention, subscribe to the channel. What Jonathan would discover in the following hours would reveal a conspiracy far greater than a simple baby switch. Jonathan ordered the guards to escort Amara to a private room, not outside. Victoria protested, screamed, but he ignored her. He delegated to his lawyer Marcus Chun the task of discreetly ending the event and took everyone to a suite on the top floor. "You've lost your mind." Victoria paced back and forth. "You humiliated our family in front of 300 people because of a delusional homeless woman." Jonathan watched the babies sleeping in the improvised crib. "I want a DNA test. Today." Victoria stopped. "What?" "If Lucas and Noah are our biological children, the test will confirm it. Simple." "This is ridiculous. You're letting this woman manipulate you. Then the test will prove she's wrong." Victoria swallowed hard. "These tests take weeks. Not when you have money. I know a lab that does it in 6 hours. I won't allow them to stick needles in my babies over an insane accusation." "Buccal swab." Amara spoke from the corner of the room. "A cotton swab on the cheek. Painless." Victoria shot a look of pure hatred in her direction. "Victoria." Jonathan finally looked at his wife. "Where are the original birth documents? The ones from the Swiss clinic?" An almost imperceptible pause. "At home. In the safe. I want to see them tomorrow." Victoria forced a smile. "Fine. You'll see it's a misunderstanding." At 3 in the morning, when Victoria finally fell asleep, Jonathan found Amara in the hallway, sitting on the floor. "Tell me everything." He sat beside her. A billionaire in a wrinkled Armani suit next to a homeless woman. "I was a nurse at Memorial Hospital. 8 years in the maternity ward." Amara took a deep breath. "I was engaged to Derek, expecting twins at 32. He painted the nursery blue before we even knew the gender." "What happened during delivery?" "I went into labor 3 weeks early. Derek was in Chicago for a conference. Didn't arrive in time. The doctor who attended me wasn't my obstetrician. Dr. Raymond Shaw." Jonathan frowned. The name sounded familiar. "The delivery was difficult. They gave me medication and everything became confused. I remember hearing 2 cries. An immense joy." Her voice broke. "Then I woke up in a white room. A nurse told me my babies hadn't survived. Respiratory complications." "You believed it?" "I went into shock. They sedated me. When I asked to see the bodies, they said it would be too traumatic. The hospital arranged cremation while I was sedated." Jonathan felt a chill down his spine. "Derek tried to help, but I was sinking. I kept saying my babies were alive. He thought I was having a breakdown. They committed me for 3 months." "And when you got out?" "Derek had left. Empty apartment. Job lost. In 3 months, I lost everything." "Why did you keep searching?" Amara looked into his eyes. "If they told you Lucas and Noah had died, would you believe it? Would you move on?" Jonathan didn't answer. "I started investigating at the public library. Discovered Dr. Shaw had a history of suppressed lawsuits. Discovered the private ambulance that night. The plane to Switzerland." "How did you find us?" "I tracked births at the Swiss clinic. Your twins were the only ones I couldn't see up close. Photos always from far away." She paused. "I got a job in the hotel kitchen. 3 weeks of waiting. When I saw the scar on Lucas, I knew." Jonathan handed her a key card. "Room 4012. Rest. Tomorrow we'll do the tests." "Why are you helping me?" "Because I need to know the truth. No matter how much it hurts." What Jonathan didn't reveal was what he discovered on his phone while she was talking. Dr. Shaw had been investigated 3 times for delivery irregularities, all closed without evidence. His last known address? Switzerland. Same city as the clinic. And more disturbing, a transfer of $200,000 from Victoria's account to a shell company in Zurich, dated 9 months ago. The morning would bring revelations Jonathan could never anticipate. And the woman sleeping beside him held secrets far darker than a baby switch. The results arrived at 2 in the afternoon the following day. Jonathan was in the office of Dr. Samuel Porter, director of New York's most respected genetic laboratory. Victoria had refused to attend, claiming a migraine. Amara sat beside Jonathan, hands trembling in her lap. Dr. Porter opened the folder and looked at them both. The results are conclusive. Mrs. Amara Thompson is the biological mother of both children. Genetic match of 99.9997%. Amara let out a sob and covered her face with her hands. Jonathan felt the world collapse. Throughout the entire night, part of him still hoped it was a mistake, anything except confirmation that his life was a lie. "What about me?" he asked. "I also took a paternity test." Dr. Porter hesitated. "You are not the biological father of these children. But there's something more." He removed his glasses. "I compared your DNA with the prenatal exams your wife provided during the pregnancy. They're false. Fabricated. Your wife was never pregnant with your child, Mr. Ashford." The silence in the office was suffocating. "She faked the entire pregnancy." Jonathan murmured, processing. "She bought my children." Amara said aloud. "She planned everything. Faked a pregnancy and stole my babies." Jonathan grabbed his phone. "I'm calling the police." "Wait." Amara touched his arm. "The police won't do anything without concrete evidence. Your wife has money, lawyers, connections. She'll say the tests were tampered with." Jonathan stopped. She was right. Victoria was a brilliant manipulator. "Then what do you suggest?" Amara opened the worn bag she'd been carrying, the one Jonathan had assumed contained only rags. From inside, she pulled out a flash drive. "When I worked in the hotel kitchen, I had access to the offices at night. I found a room your wife uses for private meetings." She handed over the device. "She's not careful when she thinks no one is watching." Jonathan connected the flash drive to Dr. Porter's computer. The first folder contained emails. Correspondence between Victoria and Dr. Raymond Shaw. They detailed the entire scheme: identification of a suitable candidate, a black woman, no close family, pregnant with twins, the plan to simulate the baby's death, document falsification, transport to Switzerland. The second folder was worse. Audio recordings. Victoria discussing how much it would cost to commit Amara to a psychiatric clinic. Laughing about how her idiot husband believed everything. Jonathan wanted to be a father so badly he accepted anything. Victoria's voice on the recording. He didn't even question it when the babies were born with dark skin. "Genetics is fascinating," I said. And he swallowed it. The third folder, banking records. $800,000 transferred to accounts in Switzerland and the Cayman Islands. Payments to Shaw, to the clinic, to whoever falsified the death certificate. Why did she do this? Jonathan murmured. "We could have adopted legally." "Adoption leaves traces." Amara said. "She wanted total control. Babies that no one could claim. From a woman she could destroy if necessary." "But you survived." "I survived. And I have evidence to send her to prison for a long time." 2 hours later, Jonathan called a press conference in the lobby of the Plaza Hotel, the same location as the party. Victoria arrived smiling, thinking she would control the narrative. Her smile died when she saw Amara standing beside Jonathan, clean, dressed in new clothes, holding the twins in her arms. "What's happening?" Victoria hissed. "Justice." Jonathan replied. Before 50 journalists, Jonathan presented everything. DNA tests, emails, recordings, banking records. Every lie exposed, every crime documented. Victoria tried to flee, but 2 FBI agents were already waiting at the doors. She was handcuffed right there, under the flash of dozens of cameras, her designer dress contrasting grotesquely with the metal cuffs. "You'll regret this," she screamed as she was led away. "I'll destroy you both." Jonathan watched the woman he thought he loved being dragged from the hotel where, 24 hours earlier, she had pretended to be a devoted mother. Amara pressed the babies to her chest, silent tears streaming down. Lucas and Noah looked at her with those brown eyes she would recognize anywhere. "Is it over?" she whispered. Jonathan looked at her. At the babies he had loved as his own. At the life crumbling around him. For her, yes. For us, it's just beginning. Victoria's arrest was only the first chapter of an investigation that would reveal an international baby trafficking ring. But for Jonathan, the real battle would be internal, learning to let go of the love built on lies. 6 months later, Jonathan parked in front of a red brick house in Brooklyn. It wasn't a mansion like the one he still owned in Manhattan. It was a modest 3-bedroom house, with a small garden in front where 2 rocking chairs awaited the sunset. But it was perfect. The door opened and Amara appeared. Unrecognizable. Healthy natural hair, a simple yellow dress, a genuine smile that completely transformed her features. "Jonathan, come in." The boys just woke up from their nap. The living room was cozy, filled with colorful toys and framed photos. Jonathan stopped in front of one, Lucas and Noah taking their first steps, leaning against a blue couch, smiling at the camera. "They're enormous. They grow too fast." Amara brought the twins. "Say hi to Uncle Jonathan." Uncle Jonathan. That's what they had decided. Not father, that would be confusing and unfair to everyone. But not a stranger either. Jonathan had loved those boys for 8 months. That love didn't simply disappear because biology said they weren't his. He held Noah in his arms while Lucas grabbed his finger with surprising strength. "How are you?" Amara asked. "Better. Therapy helps. And keeping distance from all of that too." After Victoria's arrest, Jonathan had stepped away from business. He spent 3 months at a house in rural Maine, alone, processing the betrayal. The divorce was finalized in record time. Victoria, facing charges of conspiracy, kidnapping, document falsification, and participation in a child trafficking network, was in no position to contest anything. Her lawyers tried to negotiate a settlement, but Jonathan was implacable. She wouldn't receive a penny. "I saw in the papers that the trial was postponed again," Amara said. Jonathan nodded. "The prosecutors are expanding the case. Dr. Shaw agreed to testify in exchange for a reduced sentence." Apparently, Victoria wasn't his only client. The investigation had revealed an international baby trafficking network operating for over a decade. Shaw identified vulnerable women, usually poor, without family minorities, and orchestrated the disappearance of their newborns. The babies were then sold to wealthy couples who wanted to avoid the scrutiny of legal adoption. 12 families had been identified so far. 37 children. Some of those mothers still haven't been found. Jonathan said. "Disappeared into the system, like you almost did." Amara closed her eyes for a moment. "I was lucky." "You had courage." "That's not the same thing." Amara had used part of the legal settlement. Jonathan had sued the hospital, the Swiss clinic, and everyone involved, and Amara had received substantial compensation to buy the house in Brooklyn. The rest was invested for the boys' education. She had also returned to work. Not as a nurse, not yet. The trauma made it difficult to be in hospitals. But she had gotten a job at a non-profit organization that helped mothers who had lost children under suspicious circumstances. Her story had become a symbol of hope for dozens of women. Derek reached out. She said suddenly. Jonathan raised his eyebrows. "The ex-fiancé?" He saw the news. "Wants to apologize. Said he feels terrible for abandoning me when I needed him most." "And you? How do you feel?" Amara looked at the twins playing on the carpet. "I understand why he left. I was destroyed, saying things that sounded crazy. He couldn't have known." She paused. "But forgiving is different from forgetting. And trusting again, that takes time." Jonathan nodded. He understood perfectly. They sat in silence for a moment, watching Lucas and Noah stack colored blocks only to knock them down with giggles. "Do you regret it?" Amara asked. "Discovering the truth?" Jonathan considered the question. 8 months ago, he was a man who had everything: money, power, a seemingly perfect family. Now he was a divorced man, childless, whose personal story had been tabloid headlines for weeks. But he was also a free man. Free from lies. Free from manipulation. Free to start over. No. He said finally. The truth hurt more than anything I've ever felt. But living in that lie would have destroyed me in a different way. Worse. He looked at Amara. And you got your children back. That's worth any pain I felt. Amara smiled, eyes glistening. Thank you. For everything. You could have ignored me that night. Sent me away like some crazy person. I saw the truth in your eyes. Even before I wanted to admit it. He stood up, knowing it was time to leave. He had learned to pace the visits, frequent enough to maintain the bond, spaced enough to allow Amara to build her own life. At the door, he stopped and looked back one last time. Amara held the twins, one in each arm, exactly as Victoria had held them that night at the Plaza Hotel. But the difference was visceral. Victoria had held them like trophies, proof of her success. Amara held them as what they truly were, her children, her life, her recovered miracle. Jonathan, she called. Yes. The foundation you were going to create. For underprivileged children. Are you still going to do it? He smiled. I'm already doing it. But I changed the focus. Now it helps mothers who've had children stolen. To ensure no other woman goes through what you went through. Amara nodded, tears flowing freely now. Jonathan stepped out into the afternoon sun. Brooklyn buzzed with life around him. Children playing, neighbors chatting, the glorious normalcy of everyday life. He had lost the children he thought were his. He had lost his wife, his family, the life he knew. But in the process, he had found something he didn't know he was looking for, the ability to do the right thing even when it cost everything. The truth was painful. But it was the only foundation worth building on. If this story stayed with you after the ending, subscribe to the channel. Some truths destroy worlds. Others rebuild them.